What's going on, YouTubers and fellow other members of social media alike? Welcome to the Alex Kirsch Project, and here's your host, Alex Kirsch himself. So I kind of want to take the time to actually just express that while my channel tends to focus on things like political and social, and also focus on things like, for example, the entertainment, which I do a lot of entertainment reviews on things. That's why I have Niner, that's why I have depth of perspective, and every now and then whenever I want to put idiots of social media on blast, I have Niner. Or not Niner, but I have Tighten Your Shot group. So the thing is, the reason why I want to do this today is because there's been a lot of craziness in the world, and I want to start putting out more content for people like yourselves out here to watch. And I want to get a little bit more personal for myself. So I decided I was going to talk about one that was, a little personal to me as to, you know, addiction and whatnot. So for the record, I've never done a single drug in my entire life. For example, I've never done marijuana. I've never done cocaine, heroin, none of those things. Because first things first, I don't believe in doing those things. But mostly it's just because, like, I have seen what these drugs do to people. Now, marijuana is the only one that I'm really going to say that I don't have a problem with, because most of the time whenever I see people smoking pot, marijuana, what have you, as long as it's the straight stuff, they tend to not, do anything crazy. They just exist. You stick them in a corner with the Jimi Hendrix record and some Funyuns, they're happy for life kind of deal. So, but the thing is, though, I don't touch the stuff, not just because of my job, but because I just, haven't gotten around to it. I haven't really drank as much in the past 3 weeks just because of my gout. Yes, that's true. I have gout. I'm only 37 years old, but I got diagnosed with gout when I was, in 2012. But the thing is, though, is like, I'm not going to talk really about alcohol, but the one thing I am going to talk about is tobacco. Yes, tobacco is something that I gave up in 2013. Now, it was really difficult because I actually started off just to kind of give a little bit of history. Before I kind of go into giving history, be sure to go ahead and subscribe to this channel and go ahead and give a like and a share and give a comment down below. Feel free to comment and share any kind of story that you'd want to give in here. But the thing is I started smoking back in December of 2003. It was in my first deployment to Iraq, and we were guarding what was known as the Patriarch Union of Kurdistan. And it was a time when we actually had a member of the Iraqi National Congress when it was just starting to pick up, and he was already a very prominent member. And he would not let us search his vehicle right there, okay? And I kind of had a bit of a problem with that because everybody got searched when they came into this compound, because the Kurds, if people don't know, Kurds are hunted, essentially. Like, especially if you're out by yourself. They were hunted by the Saddam regime, and they still get hunted to this day, especially by the likes of ISIS. But long story short, the reason why we're protecting them is to ensure that they actually had a future. And we had members of the Iraqi National Congress that would occasionally come in so they could talk diplomacy and stuff like that. Well, this one guy decided he didn't want us to search his vehicle. And he started insulting us. He started calling us dogs. He started calling us every name in the book. And I started to get really insulted. And he, started saying things about how we all deserve to die. And I snapped. Essentially, like, it got to the point where I wanted to just basically rip this guy's face off, right? I never got his name, but at the time I didn't matter because I just was seeing red at that point. And my first line supervisor, Adrian Rich, actually told me to go away and just watch what you're doing kind of deal. And he kind of pushes me away, right? Well, after the whole situation got resolved, I went up to him, I said, I need a cigarette. And he's like, well, you don't smoke. I was like, I do now. Please give me a cigarette or else I'm going to kill somebody, essentially. And I know it's not exactly a good excuse, but the thing is, I needed something to calm me down because I couldn't have alcohol because I was deployed and I couldn't do anything else about it. So I just turned to the next thing that I knew I could do that wasn't going to kill me right away. And so from then on, I was a smoker. I was a tobacco user. I did every kind of, like, I smoked different kinds of cigarettes. I smoked Marlboros. I smoked, what's it called? Lights, menthols. There was different kinds of brands I'd smoke. Sonoma was one of my favorite ones that I'd smoke. But when I was deployed, I would usually smoke Miami's. If anybody's ever been to the Middle East and they've ever tried Miami's, Miami's are like where it's at. That's completely like where the party is at. You had all different brands of cigarettes. I used to use a lot of chewing tobacco as well. And the reason why is I kept on coming up with all these different reasons why. Mostly, I would just say it was just a fixation that I would have. Now, I want everybody to understand something, okay? I am not a doctor, okay? Before anybody gets any ideas as to whether, like, I'm offering medical advice. No, I'm just sharing a story, essentially. So the thing is when it comes down to it, is that when I first started utilizing tobacco, I started using more and more. Like, it got to the point, I think, like, the most I ever smoked in my entire life was, like, at least a pack and a half a day usually. That's like the highest I ever got. But when I had like a really bad day, I think I was smoking like 2 packs a day, which is not good for you whatsoever. I mean, smoking is not good for you in general, but 2 packs a day is just nuts, okay? But the thing is, though, is that I found myself like, completely consumed by it. And anytime I wasn't having a cigarette, I felt like I was going to lose my mind. I would smoke a cigarette after I ate a meal. I would smoke a cigarette while I was drinking. I smoked a cigarette all the time. And it was something that I just continued to do. I smoked consistently. And there were times I said, I can quit at any time. And people tell me, you need to quit, you need to quit, you need to quit. Now, I want everybody to understand something, okay? I want everybody to understand that when it comes down to tobacco, yes, tobacco is a very, very bad habit, okay? It is something that will change your life. It is something that will change your life permanently, okay? But at the same time, I want you to know, it does, in a way, offer some sort of relief. It releases certain, endorphins, and it releases certain calm. It gives you a certain calm at the end of the day. It's no different from like when it comes down to alcohol, and it's the same temporary rush that you might get from some drugs, because as a matter of fact, tobacco is one of the most addictive drugs out there. But the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of facts when it comes down to tobacco, and I'm going to kind of go over those real quick, okay? This is according to the CDC. Now, I know some people are going to have some questions about the CDC, but the thing is this is stuff that we know about cigarettes, okay? And I'm going to post this up for everybody to read. When it comes down to disease and death, smoking leads to disease and disability and harms every organ of the body. More than 16 million Americans are living with a disease caused by smoking. Now, this isn't just first-hand, second-hand, but it's second-hand smoking as well. And for every person who dies because of smoking, at least 30 people live with a serious smoking-related illness. Smoking causes cancer, heart disease, stroke, lung diseases, diabetes, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Smoking also increases risk for tuberculosis, certain eye diseases, and problems of the immune system, including rheumatoid arthritis. Smoking is a known cause of erectile dysfunction in males. Smoking is the leading cause of preventable death. Worldwide, tobacco can cause up to 7 million deaths per year. If the pattern of smoking all over the globe doesn't change, more than 8 million people a year will die from disease related by tobacco use by 2030. Cigarette smoking is responsible for more than 480,000 deaths per year in the United States, including more than 41,000 deaths resulting from secondhand smoke exposure. This is about 1 in 5 deaths annually, or 1,300 deaths every day. On average, smokers die 10 years earlier than non-smokers. And if smoking continues at the current rate among U.S. youth, 5.6 million of Americans younger than 18 years of age are expected to die prematurely from smoking-related illness. This represents about 1 in every 13 Americans aged 17 years or younger who are alive today. Now, that's the facts that's according to CDC. But I'm going to tell you exactly what it does on a personal level, okay? So when it comes down to it, smoking, yes, does give you a sense of temporary relief. But I just want you to know right now, that temporary relief right there is exactly what it is. It is only but it's not really you're not going to get a long-term good feeling out of smoking a cigarette, because you have to understand something. Once you smoke a cigarette, the first thing that's going to start happening to is your clothes are going to stink. They are going to stink to high heaven. They are going to smell terrible. Anybody that does not smoke will remember that smell, and it's just an awful smell. It's an awful sensation, especially like there's something about it. Most of all, your teeth will start to turn yellow. Your fingernails will also turn yellow. I mean, it's going to stay in your hair. I mean, cigarette smoke is just not very appealing to many. Now, it's hypocritical for me to say, but the thing is, though, is like I know, because at one point, I was the person that says, I will never smoke a cigarette a day in my life. Well, that changed once again in December of 2003. Now, it was around in May of 2013 when I finally quit smoking, okay? Because there was a few things that I started to realize when it came down to it, okay? When it come down to smoking, even though, yes, I would see guys that, or gals that could run a 2 mile still like in like 12 or 13 minutes and for 2 miles, which is pretty awesome. And the thing is, like, that's just how their bodies are built. They're just naturally able to run. But the thing is, though, when you smoke, you actually are inhibiting your ability for your blood vessels and for your oxygen to probably get to your blood and whatnot. There's a lot of things that, cigarette and tobacco just generally does to you. It also inhibits your appetite. Food doesn't taste the same. There's a lot of things that's actually wrong when it comes down to smoking and utilizing tobacco. And we're not even going to talk really about like what chewing tobacco does to you. I mean, you will actually like lose your teeth. You can get tongue cancer. You can get gum disease. All kinds of really nasty stuff that can happen to your body. And the thing is like, there are people out there that, it's just, they do it because it's all kind of habit, right? It's like, once again, it's a fixation that people just need to have in order to kind of cope with what's going on in the world, which I completely get, okay? Stress happens to everybody on a day-to-day basis. It happens to everybody. But the thing is, though, a very, very prominent lesson that I once learned actually from the movie Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is that all the stresses that you experience are still going to be there even after you're done. So when it came time for me to realize that I didn't need tobacco anymore, okay, a couple things came to my mind. First things first, when it comes down to quitting something like tobacco, you have to want it more than anything else in the world for yourself. You can't do it for anybody else. Yes, it's a nice thought that you could do it for your wife, you can do it for your kids, you can do it for your family, you can do it as a promise to somebody else. But the thing is, though, people are not going to be there for you when you struggle. They'll say they are, but you know what? On some days where you're just going to have a really bad freaking day and you're just going to want a cigarette, some people will actually give in and say, you know what, let me help you out. Let me give you a cigarette. But no, you have to resist stuff like that, because the thing is you have to take it from this point of view. In order to quit tobacco or any other kind of substance, you have to want it more than anything. You have to have the discipline to understand that this is not something that you want to continue. This is not something that you want to keep going down. And that you just continue to come up with reasons as to why you don't need it anymore. First things first. Whenever I smoked a cigarette, I was less stressed afterwards. No, the stresses were still there. You just think that the stresses are gone. So that's one lie that you're telling yourself. I'm only a social smoker. No, you're still a smoker. You just are finding an excuse to smoke around your friends. All right? Or you're going to bum a cigarette off somebody else. Nobody likes a bum. Nobody likes somebody that's like, hey man, let me get a cigarette from you. And the thing is like that happens all the time. You'll always have that one guy that says, oh, I'm not a smoker. But then next thing you know, when he has a few in him, he's going to start bumming smokes off of you. It happens to everybody. Then you'll say, oh, I only smoke when I drink. No, you smoke because now you're finding another excuse to continue to smoke cigarettes right there. The more excuses you make for yourself, the more you realize how heavily reliant you are upon nicotine, how heavily reliant you are on tobacco, and how heavily reliant you are on a fixation of that sort. Next thing you know, you'll say, well, I buy it because it makes me feel good. Okay, that's fine. But the thing is, while you say it makes you feel good, it's doing terrible things to your body. It's doing awful things. It's affecting your lungs, your heart. It's, you're increasing your blood pressure. There's so many things that tobacco does that's bad for you. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but a lot of people just aren't realizing this. Now, I can hear the excuse as to whether, well, listen, if you quit smoking, you'll save so much money. That's a crock of shit, honestly. I wouldn't listen to that for 1 second. That shouldn't be a reason for you to quit smoking just because it's financially responsible or financially feasible. You shouldn't quit smoking because your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your dog, your cat, your wife, your kids, they can want you to quit smoking or using tobacco all you want to. But at the end of the day, it's entirely up to you. You're the person that has to want to quit more than anything else in this world. Because the thing is no one is going to take care of you better than you. And I came to that realization. When I realized that just because I was stressed out in life, it did not mean that I needed this fixation. It meant that I did not need this tobacco. Tobacco and nicotine, because I want everybody to understand something. You're not cured from this. I'm not cured from tobacco. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. I still have cravings to this day. I still have thoughts. I still have dreams. I have dreams where I'm smoking cigarettes. I have dreams where I'm spitting tobacco, whatnot, and I keep thinking that my wife is going to kill me. But the thing is, though, that's just because that's how much of an impact that tobacco has had on my life. But at the end of the day, though, I know that I don't need it at all. As stressed out as I might get, I have to tell myself that I don't need tobacco to make myself feel a temporary sense of relief. I don't need tobacco to give me some sort of a reminder that, I just need to kick back and relax once in a while. No, I just have to tell myself that I don't need this stuff. And that can occur with anything. For anybody to tell you that it's impossible to quit, or not necessarily quit, but to stop using tobacco is bullshit. It's flat out bullshit. Anybody is capable of quitting. It's all up to the individual person to have the discipline and the realization and the want and the need to know that they don't need this anymore, but they have to want it for themselves. You can give them all the different reasons, you can give them all the different explanations, but half the time, if people don't want your freaking opinion, they just say, listen, I don't care what you think. I want to smoke cigarettes. That's fine. That's entirely up to you. Some people just do it, and that's fine, okay? But the thing is, though, when you smoke, you're not just affecting yourself, but you're affecting the people around you. And now, there are people out there that say, well, I smoked for 40 years, and I'm doing just fine. Yes, you might be doing just fine, but the thing is, that's because your body has become so accustomed to it. Again, I am not a doctor, though. I want everybody to understand this. I am not a doctor, but the thing is, this is the excuse that you hear from everybody, that you do need this stuff because it does calm you down. I get it. I totally understand it, okay? But I just want you to know something. After I quit smoking, and because I had the strong mental discipline, and I can honestly tell you, it is 90% mental and 10% physical when it comes down to quitting something. Because your body, your mind plays the biggest tricks on you in this regard. That's what I found. If you know without a doubt that you do not need tobacco, cigarettes, whatsoever, that makes life so much easier. Because you just continue to remind yourself how much you do not need this stuff. And that's exactly how I feel about this. So the first things first, I want everybody to understand something. Here's what's going to happen once you quit smoking, okay? Now, I'm not going to talk about like stuff that happens like within 8 minutes or something like that, because that doesn't count, okay? After the first 24 hours after your last cigarette, okay, you've already decreased your risk of a heart attack. This is because the reduced constriction of veins and arteries as well as increased oxygen levels go to the heart to boost its functioning. After 48 hours, damaged nerve endings begin to regrow throughout your body, and that your senses that you actually lost before, like your sense of smell, your sense of taste, actually starts to improve. 72 hours, you'll find yourself breathing more easily, and that's because the tubes, like the bronchial tubes inside your lungs, have started to relax and open up more. And this makes up for all the air exchange and carbon dioxide with oxygen easier. In addition, your lung capacity, your ability of the lungs to fill up air, increases about 3 days. Now, I'm not going to go for every single bit, but I'm just going to go after like the first year after you quit smoking, okay? After 1 year of quitting smoking, your lungs will have experienced dramatic health improvements in terms of capacity and functioning. You'll notice how much easier you breathe when you are exerting yourself and how much less coughing you have compared when you smoked. 3 years after you do, your risk of heart attack has decreased by that of a non-smoker. 5 years after you stop smoking, your risk of death from lung cancer has dropped by half. 10 years. Now, I'm approaching that 10-year mark, okay? I still got about 3 years to go, but I'm close to that 10-year mark, okay? At the decade mark, your risk of dying due to lung cancer has decreased of that of a non-smoker. That's pretty significant because I smoked for almost 10 years, okay? I was like 9 years and 6 months and some change and stuff like that. But the thing is, like, it was like on and off, but I consistently used tobacco for almost 10 years, okay? But at the decade mark, okay, once again, your risk of dying because of lung cancer has decreased that of a non-smoker. The cells that were previously precancerous are now replaced with healthy cells. In addition to decreasing, the risks for lung cancer, your risk of developing smoking-related illnesses also goes down. This includes a reduced risk for cancers of the mouth, esophagus, bladder, kidneys, and pancreas. Now, I want you to understand something, okay? Everybody has the individual right or what they believe to go out and smoke cigarettes. Because I tell you what, smokers are some of the most dedicated people on the face of the planet Earth. It could be a nuclear blast outside and somebody will step outside for a fix. It could be 80 degrees below zero and somebody will step out in shorts and a t-shirt to go smoke a cigarette. They are some dedicated sons of bitches, I tell you, because I was one. But at the end of the day, I want everybody to remember something. I am still a nicotine addict. The effects that it has on my psyche are still with me to this day. You're never ever actually cured of something like this, just like alcoholism. You're not cured from it. You just haven't partaken in it. I will always be a tobacco user. I'm just not using at this point. I haven't been using since May of 2013. And I'm very, very proud of myself for that. To me, that's a huge... Every day that I don't use tobacco is another landmark for myself. At the end of the day, folks, it's just something you have to take one day at a time. Now, if you have questions or concerns that you need to go to, there's plenty of websites that I'll actually provide here in the column, here in the links, and they'll pop up right in front of you. These are links that you can do to contact to ensure that, hey, listen, I need help for quitting smoking. Now, there are a lot of concerns as to why you should quit smoking because of health risks. You've seen the commercials of truth.com or .org where you see a guy coming out and singing, "You don't always die from tobacco," and he's got the voice box to his neck. That's pretty frightening stuff. But the thing is, though, is like there are people that will watch that and still continue the behavior. Just like somebody that knows that if they have one more drink of alcohol, it's going to damage their kidneys or it's going to cause them to, they're going to die from alcohol poisoning, what have you. But people will still do it because they are so heavily reliant upon it. Now, I want you all to remember this. At the end of the day, the only person that should be talking about quitting is you, the user. You're the only person, is the person that you should be listening to the most. You shouldn't listen to, you can take the advice of other people, but at the end of the day, you're the one that has to make that decision, just like I did. Once you get past that point of realizing you don't need this stuff anymore, it gets so much easier. You just have to stay working at it. You have to continue to tell yourself, I don't need it. I don't need it. That's all you need to tell yourself. I don't need this. Once you get past that point, you just have to hold on to that discipline, and your friends and your family, they've got to be supporting you all along the way. But don't give in to peer pressure. Nothing's ever that bad that you need a cigarette. Nothing's ever that bad that you need a dip of tobacco. You don't need it, I'm telling you. Because I can tell you, for those that actually use to relapse, I've seen it gets worse and harder and harder. That's why it's so important that for you to, find ways to cope with it. That's why I chew a lot of gum, right? I go through packs of gum on the consistent basis. I love chewing gum, and I know you really can't see it because of the green screen, but this is extra long-lasting flavor gum. I chew gum all the time because I have that fixation. I tell you what, though, it helps me. It helps me get past what I really need. Even though I know the stress is already there, I know the chewing gum is not going to kill me. At least I hope not. I'd hate to give up chewing gum. So anyway, folks, listen. You don't have to listen to a word I say. Just do the research for yourself and then come down to a decision of whether you really need this or not. At the end of the day, I'm telling you, you won't need it. Just like if you're worried if this alcohol is going to make you feel better, it's not. It's going to give you a temporary sense of relief, and then once again, you're going to continue to make excuses. You don't need to make excuses because that's all they are. At the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself the best way you possibly can. Anyway, hopefully everybody's enjoyed this video. Hopefully everybody understands that I'm not here to preach to you or tell you what to do with your lives. I'm just giving you examples because this is based on my experience. Your experience is probably going to be different from mine. Everybody copes with something different from me, and that's okay. But if you have any questions or if you have any comments or if you want to find out more ways to fix yourself, I'll drop the links down below where you can get more information on how to quit smoking, quitting tobacco, or hell, you can even send me a message. You can find me on Facebook and you can find me here on YouTube. All right, so hopefully everybody enjoys themselves and I hope you all have a great day.